Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 89 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're learning how to think like an engineer using the Arduino Uno R4 Wi-Fi. What I will need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice. No sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sunfounder. Sunfounder is actually sponsoring this most excellent series of video lessons, and in this class we will be using the Sunfounder Elite Explorer Kit. Now, hopefully most of you guys already have your gear, but if you don't, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon, and you can hop on over there and pick your kit up. And believe me, your life and my life are going to be a whole lot simpler if we are working on identical hardware. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I'm going to teach you today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the work that we did last week with PyQt 5 on the PC, getting data from the GY87 QMC 5883L magnetometer connected to the Arduino, get that data over into Python, PyQt 5, and then display the data in Python so that we can more accurately calibrate the magnetometers. Now, last week what we did is we got the data into Python and PyQt 5, and then we were creating very, very elegant graphs of the data that allowed us to very precisely find the minimum and maximum magnetometer values, which then we could use to calibrate the magnetometer. But we got to the point that we were collecting the data and we were graphing the data, and then that was kind of a good place to stop. So this week, what we're going to do is we're going to go in and take that data that we're pulling in, and actually we're going to take that data that we were pulling in, and we're going to actually calibrate the magnetometers in Python. Okay, so the calibration is going to be done in Python, and then what we can do if we want, we can then go back and edit our various Arduino programs to put that calibration factor on the data that's collected by the Arduino. Right now, the Arduino is just collecting the raw data, it's sending it to Python, and then Python is plotting the data as you move the magnetometer through the various orientations. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And so what I'm going to need you to do is I'm going to need to get out of your way. I'm going to need to come over to this view. You're going to need to go to the most excellent www.toptechboy.com. You can use this happy little search icon, and you can search on plotting XYZ magnetometer data for accurate calibration. And this is the data that we ended up with. This is the very simple, this is the programs we ended up with. This is the very simple program for the Arduino side. It basically just reads the magnetometers and then sends the X, Y, and Z values out to the serial port. Then on the Python side, this was the program that we developed on the Python side. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take that Python program and we're going to start where we left off, and we're going to come over here. Now you notice I didn't go grab the Arduino program because the Arduino program is still running on my Arduino from last week. If you don't have the Arduino program from last week, grab that first program and put it on your Arduino. Seems like I've got a lot of extraneous white space here. Let's take that out. Okay, so now what do I want to do? Instead of just plotting the data, which we're doing right now, I want to take that data as it's coming in. I want to be capturing the maximum and minimum values in X, Y, and Z, and then I want to calculate the offsets, and I want to calculate the scale factors to do to allow to create calibrated data. And then actually in Python, I want to calibrate the data, and I want to then demonstrate the calibrated data. So can we see, did we really get a good calibration? Then if we did, what we could do is we could take those calibration parameters and we could put them back in our Arduino program, if that makes sense. Okay, but now how are we going to think about this? Right now, the program is just grabbing the data and making graphs. It's graphing the XY data, the XZ data, and the YZ data. So 3 graphs graphing those 3 planes of the magnetometer data, if that makes sense. Now I want to go to the next level, and what I want to do is I want to first of all have the ability to create the calibration numbers by rotating through all the different orientations, and then I want to start displaying calibrated data on those graphs. So there's kind of like 3 modes. When you just turn the program on, it just sits and plots the raw data that's coming in. Now you're going to have a calibration button, but you haven't pressed it yet. So you start the program and you're just getting graphs of uncalibrated data. Now when you press the calibrate button, then I want to kind of go to the second mode where it is sitting there taking the data and it's trying to find the X max, the X min, the Y max, the Y min, and the Z max and the Z min. It's trying to get those 6 numbers, and then when you're satisfied that you've got a good rotation, you click the button again, and then it stops calibrating, and then it goes into calibrated mode, where the data that it is showing the calibrated data, and you can look and see if that is looking as you expected, and if it is, you know that you've got a good calibration. So 3 modes. No button click, you are running uncalibrated. Button click 1, you are now calibrating, and then when you press the button again, you are calibrated. So uncalibrated, calibrating, and then calibrated. Now, once you get to calibrated, if you hit the button again, you're going to go back and calibrate again. So it's uncalibrated, calibrating, calibrated. It would then go back to calibrating, calibrated. I don't go back to uncalibrated once I run the program. Okay, does that sound good? I hope it does. So let's come up here, and what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take this code and we're going to have to dress it up a little bit, add some more stuff to it. Okay, so the first thing, we're going to come down here. We got our baud rate, we've got our serial port turned on, we've got our 2000 points, and then we create our empty X raw, Y raw, and Z raw. Those are the magnetometer readings that are coming right off the Arduino without anything at all happening. Okay, now though, we're going to be eventually having calibrated data, and so we're going to take these 3, and now we're going to create 3 new NumPy arrays, which is going to be, instead of X raw, it's going to be X cal. Instead of Y raw, it's going to be Y cal. And instead of Z raw, it's going to be Z cal. All right. So these are our raw numbers. These will be our calibrated numbers. Simple enough, right? Now, we got to keep some flags. We got to keep track of some flags here. Exactly where are we? Have we calibrated or not? Well, when we first run the program, that's going to be what? False. We haven't calibrated yet. Now, when you press the button, go through calibrating, it's still going to be false. And then when you finish calibrating, then you're going to make calibrated true. Okay? Does that make sense? Hopefully that's not too complicated. Now, we're also going to have our calibration factors. Before we can create calibrated data, we're going to have to get our calibration parameters. And so we're going to have offsets. And earlier I was doing like X offset, Y offset, Z offset, and all that, but I'm just going to make it an array. So I'm going to say my offsets are np dot zeros, and then it is going to be 3. Okay, so NP zeros, right? And so that is going to have 3 elements in it. 3 elements in it. Okay, so that will be like the first one will be the X offset, the second one will be the Y offset, and the third one will be the Z offset. So those are our 3 offsets. And then we also have our scale factors, and that again is going to be NP dot ones this time, and you'll see later why we're doing that. And again, we're going to have 3 of them. So we're going to have the scale set to 1, and we're going to have the offset set to 0. Why? Well, initially we don't want any offset. We want to leave it where it is, so the offset is 0. And then the scales, we don't want to scale it at all, so the scale factor is 1. And so that kind of explains why we do it that way. Now we're going to come down here. I think that is most of the setup that we need to do. Now we're going to come down here, and what we are going to need to do, is there anything else I need? I don't think I need Qt widgets and Qt core. I think that's it. All right, so now we come in and let's kind of think through this. We've got our app, right? We've got our main window. We set the main window title. Then we create our main layout, okay? Then we create our main window, all right? So that's all good. Now, before we come in and before we do our plot layout and our main layout, we're going to create some widgets, right? We're going to create some buttons. We're going to create some more stuff that we were not doing before. And so we have got the main layout here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create some labels of where are we. Now I kind of told you that we're uncalibrated, we're calibrating, or we're calibrated. We need to kind of create a label to keep track of that. So we're going to call that the status label, like that. And that is going to be Qt widgets, dot Q label. And then what do we want the label to start out with? Well, they need to know the program is running and they are what? Not calibrated. Okay, so that's pretty simple, right? We start out, the program's running, it's not calibrated. Anything that is being plotted is uncalibrated data. And this is going to go there in our widget, and it's going to let us know when we look at our widget where we are of those 3 states that I've been describing. So that's the status label. Now the status label dot set alignment, we're going to do the Qt core dot Qt dot align center. So that when this goes into our window and our layout box, it's going to be in the middle, not left, not right. It's going to be in the middle. It's going to be in the center, I guess is a better word for it. All right, now we're going to set some parameters for that. So the status label dot, we're going to set its style sheet. All right, now what are we going to want? Well, I'm going to say everything is good, so the color is going to be green. All right, the font weight is going to be bold, and then the font size is going to be 20, you can't see that, 20 px no space, 20 px no space. Then you have that dangling colon there that kind of bothers me, and then you close your quote, right? Close your quote, and then you close your, yeah, that was not good. You close your parenthesis. All right, does that look good? I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so we've got the status label. let's think. What do we want to do? What do we want to do? We've got our label doing good. So we've got our status label set alignment, and then we've got the status label set style sheet. Okay, now we have to put that somewhere, right? Where are we going to put it? We're going to put it in the main layout dot. We're going to add that widget. And what widget are we going to add to main layout? The min, max, no, status label, main layout, add widget, status label. All right, so we created the label and we added it. Let's just run it to make sure that we haven't broken something here. We have broken something. Where's that line 28? Q label. I bet that is going to be an uppercase. You see, I'm so used to camel case or bumpy font where you usually don't put two capitals together like that, and that kind of messes me up sometimes. Okay, let's see what happens if it's going to run. See if we're on track here. Okay, now look at this. That's pretty good. I've got it up here, program running, not calibrated. Okay, so I got my label up there. I'm happy. Okay, and let me stop it. And I have my title. So that is pretty good. Now, I also down below there, I need to be printing out like what is my X-min, X-max, Y-min, Y-max, Z-min, Z-max, because I need to see that. And that's not the X, Y, and Z. That's my present best X max and X min, Y max, and Y min. I want those to be showing because those are what's critical for the calibration. So I'm going to have min max label. Min max label is going to be what? Qt widgets dot Q label, W label, no, Q label, uppercase, get that right. And then it is going to be, this is min and max values. And then at this point, right when the program runs, I don't have any mins or max. So I'm just going to say I got nothing for you, not applicable, not available, nothing for you. All right. Then I want the min max label to be dot set alignment, and I want the Qt core just like before dot Qt dot what? Align center, like that. Okay, so we've aligned it. Now what do we want to do with it? Well, main layout dot add widget min max label. So now I should have the big label and then I should have another label under it. Okay, I should have the big label and then I should have another label under it saying that I really don't have anything for you at this point. There's no min or there's no max at this point. And I've got it added in there. So let's run the thing and let's see what happens. Man, I like it when we have a program that we can run every 5 or 10 lines. Okay. Now look at this. What do I have? I have program running, not calibrated. Min max is not available. Okay, min max is not available. You know what? I think I should probably, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set a style sheet on that too. So I'm going to get this style sheet that we did before. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that here. And that way it'll be kind of the same green. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So I think I'll just make this second one, I'll make it 16 like that. Because as we get a lot of data going across there, I don't think we can take that large of a font size or it's going to make our box bigger. Okay. Oh, that did not work. No. What did I not do? I didn't change the name. I copied and pasted, but I didn't change it to min max like that. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, now look at that. Font size 20, and then here we have min max and font size 16. That looks good. Not available because why? I haven't started calibrating yet. What mode am I in the 3? I'm just in the not calibrated mode. and I'm just sitting there taking data, but I'm not calibrated. Okay, so that's good. Let's stop it like that. All right, so I have my min-max label, and it has been added to my window. Now we got to think, I need a what? I need a button. What kind of button? I'm going to call it a calibrate button, which is going to be a Qt widget .q push button. And then what is it going to say? Well, if I'm not calibrated, what do I want to happen when the button is pushed? I want it to start calibrating. So that's what I want to label the button to begin with. Start calibration. I hope you could see. I hope I'm not running this thing behind my head there. Maybe I should get smaller. Start calibration, just to make sure that I am not covering up what you need to see. Start calibration. So that is the prompt that's going to be on that button that we are building. So we just created the button, calibrate button. Now calibrate button dot set to see if it is checkable. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to be able to check, and you can check and see, has it been pushed or has it not been pushed? It is what? This button is checkable. Now, what do I want to do with the button? Main layout dot add widget, and then what widget? The calibrate button that I just made. I think we might get a button if I run this thing, and it might say start calibration on a Qt widget is not defined. What is that I keep doing? I hate. I absolutely hate the way that this Qt widgets, I think, like that. Let's try that. I hate the way they do the capitalization. It's not what I'm used to, and I default back to what I'm used to. Okay, look at that. Boom. Okay, I've got the label, and I've got the start calibration. Now, if I click on it, nothing happens because I haven't really activated, I haven't brought the button to life yet. But I've got the calibrate button business going. I've got it added to the main layout. All right, now let's see. I've got here, a lot of this now is going to kind of be the same. So I've got my plot layout, I have my main layout, I have my X, Y, YZ, and XD. I'm creating the plots, and then I am kind of setting those plot windows up. That's good. I'm setting those up, and then I'm adding them to the plot layout. Okay, so that's all good. Nothing changes there. Now I've got my three actual plots themselves, the scatter plots that go in those plot windows that I created. That's done. And then I've got X plot, Y plot, Z plot, and those are then connected to, so it's like the plot window now is connected to the plot itself with the data. So that's good. Now we're going to come down, and before we update, we got to kind of deal with that button. All right. So what I've got to do is I got to say define the toggle calibration, and this is what's going to work with that button. All right. So we got to have some global variables here because this is interacting with a lot of different things from the program. So first of all, are we calibrated? Okay, that. And remember, we set that up here. I hope. Yeah, calibrated is false. So no, we're not calibrated. But we need to know that inside of this function. And then it is going to also be X raw, Y raw, Z raw, and then X cal, Y, cal, Z, cal. And then what are we going to need? We are going to need our offsets, and we're going to need our scales. Now remember, offsets is a 3-element array, and scales is a 3-element array. So offsets has X offset, Y offset, Z offset, and scales has X scale, Y scale, and Z scale. And then these are our raw numbers, and these are our calibrated numbers. Now we've got to have this because inside of this function we decide where we are and what we should do with the data. Okay, does that make sense? So now we've got those global variables set up, and now what I'm going to say is if, let me skip a line there, I'm going to say if the calibration dot is checked, right? That means that that button has been pressed. So remember, we made it checkable. What are we doing? We're checking it. Has it been pressed? If it has been pressed, I want to change the label. Okay. Set text. And what do I want to do? So it's sitting there, and at first it says like, press here if you want to calibrate. And then you press there. Now this function should be calibrating. So now the label changes to what the next thing would be, which is stop calibration. Okay. And that label is kind of looking ahead. Right now inside of here in the if calibration is checked, I'm what? I'm calibrating. And therefore the label is click me when you're ready to stop calibration. Does that make sense? Now, very different than that is the status label dot set text. Now there, what would our label be? Our mode now, what mode are we in? Calibration mode. Because we press the button, because the calibration is checked, we are now in calibration mode. Now we need to we need to go back and get that style sheet. Where is that? This? Okay. Because that's a lot of stuff to be typing in there. So then we're going to say, instead of min max label, this was in fact the status label. So we're going to say status label. And this time something is changed, right? This time something is changed. And what we want is, we want to make this red because we want them to see that they're now calibrating. So we're going to make it red. And everything else, and right, that was a 20 on that main label, right? That was a 20 on that main label. And then we're going to have a min max label dot set text. And now the label down below that is what? We're going to be the min max. We are going to be collecting that data. So that smaller little label saying I'm collecting data now, like that, and then like that. And then we're going to need this again. We're going to make a style sheet, and that is going to be the style sheet for min max label. And this will be red. Okay, it will be bold, but we're going to make it that 16 again to make that smaller. Okay, but it's going to be red. Now let's try this. I feel like things are going pretty well today. Okay, so we've got the data coming in, and we can see that, right, I'm generating data here. Look at me go, look at me go. Okay, isn't that great? Now, when I press this button, I think I should have something happen. Okay, but not quite yet, because I don't think, no, I haven't quite got it to the point that it will switch yet. All right, because we haven't gotten to that part yet. So we've got the min max collecting, we've got that set. Now, one of the key things is we've got to say, is it calibrated? Is it calibrated? No, it's not. It's calibrating, right? It is calibrating. It is in calibration mode. It's ready to stop calibrating, but until you press stop calibrating, the calibrated is equal to false. Now we've got to kind of clear those arrays, and so my x raw, I'm going to set that to np.empty, and that is going to be a one-dimensional array, so that is 0. Y raw is equal to np.empty, and that's 0. And then z raw is equal to np.empty, empty, that's going to be 0. Okay, now why is this? Because remember, I can go back into calibration mode after I've calibrated to recalibrate. Well, if I'm going to do that, I need to clear out the data and just get set again. So if calibration is checked, this is what I do. What if calibration is not checked? If not calibration button dot is checked, then what do we do? And remember, we're only going to get in here if you press the button. If you haven't pressed the button, you won't get in here. When you press the button the first time, then you will begin to come in here. So what does this mean? If not calibration is checked, that means that you have pressed the button twice, because you would not even get in here if you had not pressed the button once. And then if you had pressed the button once, you would be in here. It is checked. When you press it again, then that means it is now unchecked. So you pressed it a second time. So now we are going to say calibration button dot set text. So now where are we? We are calibrated, right? So then what would be the next thing that you would do? The next thing you would do on the button would be you would start calibration if you turned it again. So always this button label is not where you are, it's where you're going. And you've got to kind of realize that, or things look, you know, kind of strange in the if statements. So now we'll say status label dot set text. Now, where are we now? The button label is where we're going. Where are we now? We are in mode what? We are calibrated, because we've started it once, pressed it once to start the calibration. We pressed it a second time to stop this calibration. If we have stopped the calibration, then we are what? We are calibrated. And let me get our, that's the status label. Let me get our status label style sheet again. And then we'll paste that here, the status label style sheet. And then what are we going to do with that style sheet? I think that I'm going to make it green, and I'm going to leave it 20. So I want the colors of the buttons, of the labels, to change, kind of giving you a very obvious visual cue. Green to go, you're calibrated, right? Okay, so now that is good. Now what I've got to do is I got to start dealing with the data. So I'm going to say raw data. I'm creating a new array of raw data, and that's going to be putting all the data in one array. I'm going to take the X data and make a column, the Y data and make a column, and the Z data and make a column, and put it all into one great big array that we're going to call raw data. And that's going to be an NP numpy. What am I going to do? A programming mood here. I'm going to do a column stack, and I'm going to stack these individual arrays up, which are the X raw, the Y raw, and the Z raw, like that. Okay, so now I've got one data structure that I can deal with, which is raw data. Now I'm going to, oh boy, I forgot that closing parenthesis, like that. Okay, now I'm going to find the min values of column by column, I want the min values. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do an np dot find the mins, np min of what? Raw data, and the axis is equal to 0. So that's saying find the minimums down the columns. The axis is 0 is finding the min down the column. So min val is going to have 3 elements in it: the minimum of the x, the minimum of the y, and the minimum of the z. All right. Now you can imagine, you can probably see this one coming a mile off. We're also going to find what? The max values, max. And then instead of np min, it is going to be np max. And it's still raw data, and it's still axis equals 0. Now I also need to find the what? The offsets. All right. The offsets are going to be what? I'm going to take the max vals, which is an array, and I'm going to add the min vals, which is an array, and I'm going to divide by 2. So offsets is an array, and it's going to have the x offset in the first location, the y offset in the second location, and the z offset in the third location. You see, NumPy, I am doing matrix operations here, so I don't have to go in and do each one XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. I just put them in an array, and I deal with them all at once. Well, if I do the offset, I'm going to also need to do the scales, and that is going to be equal to 2.0 divided by what? The max vals minus the min vals. And then off scales, likewise, is going to be a 3-element array. It's going to have the x scale, the y scale, and the z scale. All right? See how cool this is turning out to be? Now we probably ought to go ahead and we probably ought to do something with our labels. So I'm going to say min, max. Get my style sheet up here. Copy and paste that, man. So I'm going to get this style sheet. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to put that style sheet in. And what do I want to do? I want to make that green just like it was above. And I want to leave it at 16. It's 16. Okay. You know, sometimes I get some very, very hateful emails and messages and cards and letters when my head is in front of what you're trying to see. So I'm sorry about that when it happens. Okay, so I have the set style sheet, and I've got it set to 16, and it's green. So that's good. Now this is going to be the label, and this time the label is going to be a little tedious. But this label, when we're here, what we want to see is we want to see those minimum and maximum values, and we want to see those offsets. Okay, we want to see all that hard work we've done because we are now calibrated, and I want to see the x min, x max, y min, y max, z min, z max. I want to see the offset x, y, z, and I want to see the scale x, y, z. And so this line is going to show me the fruit of all the hard work that we've been doing here. So this is going to be min max label dot set the text like that. Now, what do we want? I want a label min of what? The min values of x, comma, y, comma, z, and then like that. And then I'm going to concatenate that with the string value of what? The min vals. And min vals is how many numbers? It's 3 numbers. It's the x min, the y min, the z min. And then I want to round this because I don't want it to be some ridiculously long number. I'm going to round this to 2 places, and then I'm going to concatenate that with the what? The space max values of x comma y comma z, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to put a colon space, and then I'm going to close that, and then I am going to concatenate that. I'm going to concatenate that with the string. And I think I didn't close this here, right? I need to close that. Now I'm going to concatenate that with the string. And I think that I could just grab this. And this will be the string of the what? The max vowels rounded to 2. Okay, the max vowels rounded to 2. I think I can do things on 2 lines, and so I'm gonna see if this will let me just put it on the next line there like that. Sometimes that works. Doesn't work in every time, but if it doesn't, I'll go make it one long line again. So now I've got that. Now I want to concatenate it with the label what space. Now I want my I want my offsets. So what am I going to do? Offsets of x comma y comma z, like that, colon space, and then that. And now what I will do there is that will be the string value of the offsets dot round to 2. Does that look good? And then I need to close the offsets, and then I am going to concatenate that with the scales, and I'm going to make the label scales of x comma y comma z, like that, colon, in that, and then the concatenated with the string value of the offsets dot round to, not offset, scales. Okay. Offsets are rounded to 2. Scales are going to be rounded to 5. Because, right, we have that, it's like 0.000 something. And so we've got to get more decimal places there to see that. And then I close all that. Man. Let's check this. So I've got that. It's closed. Open, close, concatenated with, plus. Then that closes that. That closes the string. That closes the 2. That closes the string. Plus scales, x, y, z, colon. Okay, this closes the 5. This closes the string. And then we got to close the whole enchilada. Okay, man. I hate doing lines of code like that. You know, I really do hate it. But let's see if we can kind of coax out some errors here. Okay, it's running. Again, we haven't really brought the action to life too much, but we're just kind of seeing now if I say start calibration. Okay, I don't think I haven't actually activated this button yet. And so it's clicking, but we're not getting the action yet, okay? But I think that is okay. I think we'll do that very, very soon here. So we've got the raw data, we've got the label set, and now at this point I would be where the print is calibration completed. Why? Because I pressed it a second time if I'm in here. And so that's good, like that. Okay, now print offsets. And I'm going to print the offsets. Just because if you print it, it makes it easy to copy and paste. Okay, and then I'm going to print the scales. Scales. And this is going to work a whole lot better if I do it like that. space there, comma, and in that. Okay, so that looks good. All right, now I've got to go in and I've got to remember that now that my calibration is done, I want to get rid of those old data points, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say xcal is equal to np.empty, put it all zeros, and then the y calibrated data, make that np.empty, make all that empty, and then the zcal, make that np.empty, empty arrays for the calibrated data now. So now that is all good. Now, very, very importantly, I need to now say what calibrated is equal to true, because the first button click took me into calibration. The second button click took me into this if statement, and that second button click makes calibrated true. I'm done calibrating. Okay, now this was what? This was toggle calibration. Now this is why nothing was happening when I was making the button, because I got to bring it to life. This is our money line of code here, calibrate button, that's the button name, clicked. When you click it, clicked, you connect to toggle calibration like that. So then that should take us up to here and we should see some action this time. I really hope we get some action this time, you know. Here we go. All right, there we go. So where are we? What mode are we in? Program is running. It's not calibrated. I have no minimum maximum data because I haven't done it. But what do I want to do? I want to start calibration, and I got an error. So what was that error? There was an error that went by. Okay, 67. We just wrote that. If calibration. That was not our if calibration. Okay, if calibrate button, if calibrate button is checked, right? Because we called it up here calibrate button, right? We call it calibrate button. So if calibrate button is checked, and if calibration button, I wrote it wrong both times, calibrate button is not checked. Okay, let's try this again. I think things are going pretty smoothly. I really do. Okay, so we're going to come here, and now we're going to click it, and then mode calibration, and so I am now collecting. Okay, so I'm collecting data. All right, I'm collecting data, and then if I stop calibration, I got an error. What was that error when I stopped calibration? 78. If calibrate button. Yeah, look, it even was asking me, did you mean calibrate button? Yes, I meant calibrate button. Okay, so we see we've got some good action happening here. It's just, what are we? We're in the not calibrated. We don't have a min or a max because we haven't done anything, but I can just sit and I can plot the raw data, right? I can plot the raw data. So that's good. Now what are we going to do? We're going to start the calibration, and then it says, okay, you're collecting the min max, you're now collecting. That's good. You're getting the data. And then when you stop calibration, then it shows me the minimum, the maximums, the offsets, and the scales. So that really looks good. I think that really looks good. All right. I think we're getting there. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to come down to our update plot. because there's going to be some more things going on here, right? I've got the X raw, the Y raw, the Z raw, but now what else do I need? I need to create those calibrated ones. So xcal, remember I set these up and I set them to 0, but now I need to get some data in them like that. So X raw, Y raw, 0, xcal, ycal, zcal. Now we're still doing this, that if there's no data, we don't come into this. If there is data, we're going to try to read the line. We're going to print the line. I think I'm going to take that print line out because that's just slowing me down now. And then the values, I'm going to split it. And if there are 3 data elements, I probably have a good string there. And so I've got the X, Y, Z. All right, now what I have to do is I have to think at this point I'm either going to be calibrated or I'm not calibrated, right? I'm either going to be calibrated or I'm going to be not calibrated. Does that make sense? All right, because before, just every time I would just print the stuff out. Okay, but now I'm going to say if I'm not calibrated, it's going to be different than if I am calibrated. So if I'm not calibrated, I think I'm going to want to do just what I did before. I didn't explain this very good last week. What this is saying is I am creating a new NumPy array. I create the new NumPy array by appending the single data point X to the previous array X raw, and then I keep only the max number of points. So this minus max points colon, that's a shorthand that means keep only max points. You know, you kick out the oldest data point and you add the new data point, and then that is X raw. And so this now, which we did before, is just all going to be in the if statement. Okay? Now, what do I do if it's not calibrated? Now, I want to, after I've collected a little bit of data, I want to start showing the X mins and the X maxes and so forth that I have found. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to say in here, if the length of X raw is greater than 10. After I have 10 points, I'm going to start printing out those developing mins and maxes so I can see that. So I'm going to say min vals is equal to np.min. I'm going to find the mins, and I'm going to find the mins of what? The np.column underscore stack, and then of what? Just like before, X raw, Y raw, and Z raw, like that. Close it and close it again. So that's what I'm going to do. I didn't close it enough. I got to close it one more time, like that. Close the minimum, close the stack, and close the tuple. All right, so I think that would be good. And then we're going to do the same thing with the max val, right? So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it. And then this is going to be the max vals. And that's going to be column stack. And this will be max. That looks good. Now we're going to get the update the label. So I'm going to say the min max label is going to be, I'm going to set that style sheet. I think I did this already. Where did we do this already with that label, with that great big huge ugly? I think this was it. I think here, back up here where we did all of this, we're just kind of doing it again now down in the main function. So let's copy this, the min max label, and then let's see where we were. Okay, let's try putting all of that here, because we're just kind of doing the same thing that we had done. So the min max label is going to be not nearly that much stuff. Here we're just, okay, here we're just going to put the minimums and the maximums. So it's going to be quite a bit simpler than that. And you really need me to get out of your way, don't you? Okay, so it's going to be quite a bit simpler to that. We're just going to be showing our real-time min and max values. And so we're going to come like this, I think. So, and we are going to tab over. Okay, I think you can see that. So I don't have my calibration numbers yet because I'm just in. I am just here. I'm not calibrated yet. I am calibrating. I am calibrating. And so here I'm showing my min values and I'm showing my max values, and that's all. And then let's see, I think here we are going to go ahead and we're going to change the color to blue. Okay. Like that. And did we do that up here? I don't think we changed that other label yet. Okay, so that is going to be blue. Let's run this and just get the silly errors out of the way. There's a lot of stuff that we just did there. Okay, so we've got program is running. I am going to start calibration. I am now calibrating. Okay. And then I'm going to stop calibration. And look at that. What I've got is I've got my calibrated numbers. Now I could start calibration again. Okay. I could stop calibration. All right. Now when I stop calibration, I'm not doing anything. So I've got to come down and I got to kind of finish out the code now, because right when I am calibrated, if not calibrated, well, here is going to be what? If calibrated, if I am calibrated, what do I want to do? Well, I want to get my calibrated values. So I'm going to say x calibrated is going to be equal to the x minus the offsets of 0, which is the x value. And remember, x is an array, okay? And then times the scales of 0. And then y calibrate. I think I can copy that. Okay, x calibrate, y calibrate, y, and then this would be the first element, the one element, the one element, the two element, the two element. This is going to be Z, and this is going to be ZC. And so I misspoke. X, Y, and Z are points. And so now I have X, Y, and Z points that are calibrated. And now I've got to go in and I've got to put them in. And so xcal, the array, is going to be equal to np.append. What am I going to append? I'm going to take xcal and I'm going to add xc, the point, to it. But I'm going to make sure that I only keep max points. So if I'm already up to max points, I'll throw my oldest data point away and I will keep the new one. So that's xcal. Let's copy. Let's paste. Let's paste. So then this is going to be ycal is going to be ycal, y. And then this is going to be z. And this is going to be Z, and this is going to be Z. And so now I should have my calibrated arrays, right? I should have my calibrated arrays. So now what I want to do is I want to create that scatter plot. Now that I have that data, I want to create that scatter plot. And I'm wondering if I have one of those scatters that I could, yeah, I think this would probably be what I want up here, right? I'm going to get those set datas because it's going to be almost the same here. Right? It's going to be almost the same. I'm going to paste those three. Did I not? I thought I copied those. I want to get these three. I want to copy them. And then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to paste them. And then I need to get rid of this. Okay. But now, what is my X data? My X data is X cal. What is my Y data? It is Y cal. And then this is X, Y, Y, Z, X, Z. And these are just changing everything to the calibrated data. So we're now plotting the calibrated data. Why? Because I'm in if calibrated. So I want to plot the calibrated data. All right. Man, I think that is almost it. I hope I didn't make a whole bunch of silly mistakes in there. So let's go ahead. Let's run this. Okay, and it doesn't seem to be alive. Let's see. Okay, there it is. Okay, so now what am I doing? I'm just plotting raw data, right? I'm just plotting raw data, and that's fine. I'm just plotting raw data. And that's good. It's plotting raw data. Now what I'm going to do is, okay, that is kind of awkward there, that min XYZ. I need to check that out. Okay, that label is not good. But let's stop and let's see why this label is behaving rather strangely here. Okay, that is behaving a little bit unexpectedly. So let me come up here. The label was not acting very well. And what I see, I forgot here, what I forgot was that you have to tell it where to find the minimum. Okay, so right here, I've got to say at axis equals 0. And then here, where do we find the maximum? At axis equals 0, like that. Okay, so that's saying find the minimums and the maximums along the column. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back, and I changed this to blue. I think the label was green, and so I need to probably at this point leave it green. Okay, so now let's try that and see what happens. Okay, so we are running, okay, and we are finding minimums and maximums. They're updating, right? And this is just sort of for information purposes only, because I'm just printing raw data. I am not calibrating. So now I'm going to say start calibration, and now it is calibrating for real. Okay, and so now it's showing me my minimum and my maximum values. I'm just really trying to kind of debug right now, so I'm not trying to find perfect. I'm not trying to find perfect numbers, right? Got my circle there, and then I'll do it like this, and I'll get my green circle. Okay, so now let's just see if the thing works. And so I'm going to say stop calibration, and then now I am in mode calibrated. Yeah, and that is really looking like this thing is working. Okay. Now, I got my colors goofed up in there, so that's good. That is good. That is okay. But then in mode calibration, so in mode calibration, I need to leave those labels red. And so where was that mode calibration? I need to make those red. It'll be here. Not calibrated. I think this should be red. that. Okay, so that looks good. I really, when I'm not calibrated, let's just look this over. So this calibrated is true, calibrated is false. Okay, let's try to run this thing down. Let's do it for real this time. I mean, I think that we might have this now. All right, so we're going to move this up here. This time I'm going to be very deliberate. So it's just showing me for information the minimums and the... Let's get some data going here. Okay, so now it's just showing me raw data. The program is running, it's not calibrated. It is trying to capture the mins and the max. Okay, it is trying to capture mins and max, and so that's good. All right, so as I move that, it is okay. But now we're going to start the calibration. All right, so I start the calibration, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully rotate in XY. Now, as I rotate in XY, you see that I'm making a circle. But remember, I'm rotating horizontally. If I really want to see that maximum vector, I need to make sure that I'm lining up with that 20-degree inclination that I have, right? I'm tilting up to make sure that I get that maximum value. You see, I'm really trying to get the maximum and minimum values in the XY. So I'm watching the blue curve. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get like this. And now I'm going to be watching the green as I'm turning through the XZ, really making sure that I get a maximum, a minimum, let's tilt it a little bit. Okay, let's come all the way back up to the top. Okay, that's pretty good. And now I think we're going to do it like this. You can't see that, right? So this one is going to get me the red. No, it's not. This one is going to get me the red. You see what I'm doing? I'm just tweaking it at those 4 corners of the circle, not really corners of the circle, but I'm tweaking it to try to absolutely make sure that I am getting those maximum and minimums. Okay, I think those maximums and minimums are good, and so now I'm going to say stop calibration. Now I am what? I am calibrated. All right, I am calibrated, and now what I should see is 1 to -1. Okay, now you see I need to look at that. I got all the way to 1 there, and then I'm coming up here. I just kissed the 1. Do you see that? I just kissed the 1, and then here I just kissed the -1. And then I just kissed the -1. So you see, this is like perfectly calibrated. Look at that. Look at that XY plane. It's perfectly 1 to -1, 1 to -1. Okay, now let's do the XZ plane. Okay, do you see what I'm doing in XZ plane? I'm right there perfectly at 1. Now I am at X plus 1 perfectly. I am at Y minus 1 perfectly, And then look at that, just exactly -1. That worked absolutely wonderfully. Now what I've got to do is I've got to do the XZ plane. So we're going to go like this. And I think I need to reset there. Okay. Look at that, perfectly on 1. Perfectly on 1. Perfectly on -1. And I just rolled perfectly through -1. Boom. And so what do I have here? I now have a program in Python using PyQt 5 that lets me perfectly calibrate those sensors. Now, what matters, if I want to go back to the Arduino, if I want to go back to the Arduino, I have my offsets and my scales that I can go put in Arduino. But when I put them in there, I know that they work perfectly because I just demonstrated that I was getting perfect circles, meaning that I am perfectly calibrated. Okay, guys, this has been a pretty exciting lesson. I hope it wasn't too tedious for you. I hope it wasn't too long, but I think this is just a really, really dandy program that we just made there. I think this is a really, really dandy program that we have here. You can also notice it should work to rescale. You see, if you want to see it larger, you can make that larger so that you can see it better. Okay, you can make it larger so that you can see it better. Yeah, look at that. All right. And then, okay, so I think I need to give you a homework assignment. I wasn't expecting to spend this much time on PyQt 5, but you notice we have one place down here that for the fourth graph. What I want you to add to the fourth graph is I want you to actually add a compass. And I want that compass to have north, east, south, and west. And then I want you to have a line. You can't really move an arrow in PyQt 5 very well, but you could have a line and a dot. And then you could move that dot around to make a live compensated compass on that fourth spot there. And so that's what I want you to do for your homework. Now, eventually we'll get back to the Arduino side, but this is pretty exciting. And so we're going to play around with PyQt 5 just a little bit longer. Okay, guys, I hope you're having as much fun taking the class as I am making it. It's at this point that I always give a great big shout out to my Patreons. I would not be able to deliver this quality, in-depth content every single week without you Patreons. Thank you, guys. You can help this video by giving it a thumbs up and leaving a comment down below. That will help me with the old YouTube juice. In addition, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. When you do, ring that bell so you'll get notifications when future lessons drop. And most importantly, share the video with other people because the world needs more people thinking like an engineer and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter, TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.